It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the Public Works Subcommittee. In the 2025 session at the last meeting, we have approved 25 projects. The total allocation is $95.6429 billion. On the agenda today, we have 3 papers to discuss. All 3 are new funding proposals submitted by the administration. The 3 funding proposals involve an allocation of $12.5562 billion. If all of the funding proposals are passed by this subcommittee, the total number of approved projects will become 28. The total allocation will become $108.1991 billion, excluding the block allocation for land acquisition and computerization. That is $27.3407 billion. The total allocation for works projects is $80.8584 billion. I remind members that in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, members should disclose the nature of any direct or indirect pecuniary interest relating to the items under discussion at the meeting before they speak on the items. I also draw members' attention to Rule 84 on voting in case of direct pecuniary interest. Agenda item number 1. This is a paper on 21 GB associated works for government facilities at the Hong Kong port area under the Huanggang Redevelopment project, PWSC 2025-2615. The paper proposes to upgrade 21 GB to category A. In money of the day prices, the estimated cost is $1.6624 billion. The administration consulted the panel on security for the proposal on 7th of July this year. Members of the panel supported the administration to submit the funding proposal to the subcommittee for consideration. The report on the deliberations of the panel has been sent to members via email on 9th of September. Public officers in attendance today, there are quite a lot of them, so I will not talk about every one of them. We have officers from the Security Bureau, Architectural Services Department, Customs and Excise Department, Electrical and Mechanical Services Department, Immigration Department, and Transport Department. The list of public officers in attendance has been sent to members already. I will read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Lam Chen Sing, Ms. Chen Yupming, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Shanghai Long, Mr. Chen Siu Hong, Mr. Lee Chen Kung, Mr. Chen Pui Leung, Mr. Lau Guo Fan, and Mr. Kwai Kung. I'll assign a 4-minute time limit, questions and answers included. Mr. Lam Chen Sing. Thank you, Chair. I want to first ask about the transportation arrangements. We do have more clearance kiosks for private cars. I believe during non-peak periods it should be enough, but on, say, festive occasions, we have many vehicles going past the Huanggang port, and during the small hours, there were 1,000 odd vehicles queuing at one point. As we have northbound travel for Hong Kong vehicles and southbound travel for Guangdong vehicles, we may have more vehicles than we did before. Have you anticipated how on special occasions there would be more vehicles, there may be congestion? What are your contingency plans? Or can you widen the roads so that there will be less of a queue? I also understand that there is going to be a public transport interchange without yellow buses in future. How can passengers get to urban areas? Next, about the collaborative inspection and joint clearance mode. This is a new arrangement that will provide convenience to passengers. But in terms of the hardware, for the design of the computer system or the security system in general, what is the agreement with the mainland? How can you make sure the ID information of Hong Kong IDs will not be passed on to the mainland? I believe one can only make use of such arrangement upon registration. Are you worried that, at least at the beginning, users will not be familiar with the arrangements? Or can we make the registration arrangements simpler by having people register at e-channels? I also want to ask about the expenditure for furniture and equipment and building services. I believe much of the cost will be reimbursements to Shenzhen authorities for carrying out such works. I want to ask specifically what facilities will be provided by Shenzhen, what works will be done by the Hong Kong side. Should we have more works done by the Shenzhen side to lower cost, or should we do some works on our own because of the specific specifications? Thank you. Mr. Michael Chung. I will try to answer the questions. I believe there are 5 areas to cover for the new Huanggang port, for the design capacity, how we are going to deal with traffic on special occasions. We expected 40,000 people going past Huanggang port and 9,000 vehicles going past the Lok Ma Chau point, and for the Huanggang port, we have now 200,000 passenger trips and 15,000 vehicular trips. In the old Huanggang port, we had 39 e-channels, 45 manual counters, and we had vehicles, 20 of them right now. We did see increased traffic on special occasions. We already have a mechanism to mobilize more officers. That would include colleagues from the Security Bureau, Department of Health, as well as Transport Department, also from the Tourism Board, so that we can have some special arrangements to provide a better experience for visitors. Next, on connections to urban areas, the Shenzhen side has a co-location arrangement, and we need feeder buses that go in between the locations, and we will have an arrangement like Shenzhen Bay Port, so we will have public transport connections to the port. As for collaborative inspection and joint clearance, we do not need to exchange information between the both sides under the current arrangement. For citizens making use of this mode for the first time, they can already apply to use this arrangement when they get to the counter. If they don't want to apply for this, they can go back to the manual counters. After scanning their IDs, obtaining the information in the IDs, we will do our clearance, and both the Hong Kong side and Shenzhen side will be looking at our own databases for such information. There is no exchange of information. We attach great importance to information security and will make sure security is up to par for our systems. As for the financial arrangement, the construction will be done by the Shenzhen side entirely. We are asking for approval today specifically for furniture and equipment, building services only. Thank you. I think you should also enhance publicity so that citizens are aware of the arrangements you mentioned earlier, Under Secretary. Thank you. Next, Ms. Chen Yupming. Thank you. At the panel on security meeting, I already participated in the discussion. Let me first say I support the proposal. I have two other questions about the public transport interchange and the access for private cars and online booked vehicles. At the last meeting, we talked about there will be a co-location arrangement, so we will not have private car parking facilities at the location. But the public transport interchange is located on the second floor before the Northern Link is commissioned. People will have to take buses or taxis to the location. So my question is, since taxis are allowed into the location and we will soon have online book cars being a legal service, would the administration consider allowing in the online book cars as well? Right now, the access to Huanggang port, people would need closed area permits to get to the location. So if you allow online book cars and private cars to convey passengers at the new Huanggang port, would you make some adjustments to the closed area permit arrangements? I also want to ask about contactless facial recognition technology to be used at the port. This technology is welcomed by citizens in pilot trials in the city, and it is said that $73 million will be paid to Shenzhen for acquisition of equipment relating to collaborative inspection and joint clearance mode. I think we can also allocate some of that to the use of facial recognition technology. In the first phase of the commissioning of the new port, we will be able to accommodate 200,000 passenger trips. How can we make sure passengers will make use of the new Huanggang port rather than other ports? We have many mega events held these days, and we have seen congestion at the Huanggang port before, and the queue would go all the way to the Lok Ma Chau Bridge and Shantin connection. How can we make sure such instances will not happen in future? Thank you, Chair. On the Secretary, there are 3 areas to cover. Regarding the operations of the new Huanggang port, we are making use of the co-location arrangement as well as the collaborative inspection and joint clearance mode. The port is located on the Shenzhen side. It will work similarly as what we have in Shenzhen Bay right now. It will be a closed area for vehicles that are not cross-boundary vehicles. They will need the closed road permits. As for what vehicles will be able to apply for such permits, we can discuss that later. The member also asked about Northern Link. There is a connection reserved for Northern Link in future. So there will be access directly from the Northern Link to the port in future. As for whether one needs to produce a permit when they get past the gates, we do require scanning of the ID, and information obtained from the scanning will be submitted to both sides. So an ID will still have to be produced for scanning. As for in future, whether we can make use of more advanced technology so that one does not have to scan their IDs, we keep an open mind. As for how we can ask people to go to different boundary control points so as to alleviate traffic, we have the Kwai port that provides direct access to passengers and vehicles. We also have some boundary control points that would make use of co-location arrangements. It really depends on what the passenger thinks, whether they find it more convenient to go to a port than another. This new Huanggang port will be around the clock port, so we do expect more people going through this port, and it therefore has a higher design capacity. On special occasions, say when there are events held at Kai Tak Sports Park, we have ancillary services available. We will provide direct buses at the Kai Tak Sports Park, or we will provide some other connections. We will practice a flexible approach. Thank you. Next, Mr. Andrew Lam.
分兩次問啊。
So I will take 2 rounds because I have so many questions. The paper is clear. The design and construction will be for the Shenzhen side. I want to find out more about this. What do we mean by entrusting this to Shenzhen? I'm looking at the notes. I see a few figures. Roughly $100 million will be giving that money to Shenzhen, so that's what I see in the note. And then once the works are completed, management is needed. So where do we draw the line? Every year, we will spend $75 million on operating the facilities. What does that amount cover? Or rather, $750 million. So what does that amount cover? Undersecretary, please. Now, on the expenses, so we will pay for the land with a nominal rent of $1,000. There will be a boundary line setting out clearly the Hong Kong port area and the Shenzhen part. It's like what you see at the West Kowloon terminal of the express rail link. There is a clear line. Now on the finances for building the structure. So the construction will be entirely for Shenzhen. For us, on the Hong Kong side, we simply cover the part for the collaborative inspection. We cover half the expenses. As for this proposal, this involves 11 departments. 9 departments will have staff inside the future building. So that's for passenger clearance and also clearance for smaller vehicles, private cars meaning, and then there will be computer systems, etc. That's what this proposal will cover. And then for management, there will be the utilities, the security and the cleaning staff. So anything south of the boundary line, we will cover that. Anything to the north, that's for Shenzhen. Mr. Andrew Lam. So I'm looking at financial implications, building services, furniture and equipment. So again, that follows the boundary line. These amounts will cover whatever happens on the Hong Kong side. So altogether, roughly $10 million for building services and $76 million for building services. That's for the Hong Kong port area. Now for building services in particular, you have to build certain things in one go, in one chunk. What about the systems? Do you have separate systems or will the systems be integrated? Undersecretary. So we will have integrated systems, specifically for collaborative inspection and joint clearance. That's where you will have an integrated system. Elsewhere, we have separate systems. Our building standards are slightly different from those in the mainland. We have been in touch with the mainland during the construction. The mainland, meaning Shenzhen, will build certain parts according to our standards. And then there are certain features that will be up to our standards, such as those for lifts and escalators. Those are unique to us. Once we see the completed works, we will be modifying whatever that's built. Other than that, we have separate systems. Mr. Andrew Lam, if you have further questions, please wait for your next round. Next, Mr. Jesse Shang. I declare an interest. I'm a strategic consultant with an AI company. First of all, I support this proposal. Covering the Hong Kong port area. Now, my questions. Top of mind for everyone is this new system involving collaborative inspection and joint clearance. This will promise much greater customs clearance efficiency. Now, we will have improved systems. And then we'll have an extra 100 automated channels, and then you also have inspection kiosks for private cars. So based on all this, and before we had the Northern Line, the manpower for clearance will be 5.5 times the current level. So for the current Huanggang level and the current Futian level, what's the current level of passenger traffic on each day? And we will be reimbursing Shenzhen for building part of the joint clearance systems. So we will be giving Shenzhen roughly $70 million. Will this be a one-off sum? Will this cover future maintenance fees? And if we will pay future maintenance costs, how many years will that cover? After all, new technology may emerge. So those are my questions. Undersecretary. I believe the member was referring to Lok Ma Chau and Huanggang. Now for Lok Ma Chau, the daily average passenger traffic used to be 37,000 passenger trips per day to 48,000 passenger trips per day, depending on the day. Now as for vehicle trips, 8,000 to 8,700 vehicle trips per day. Now with the new arrangement, the daily capacity will be up to 200,000 passenger trips per day. And once you have the railway system in place, that number will go up. As for vehicle trips, the capacity will be up to 15,000 vehicle trips. Now on the maintenance for the collaborative inspection and joint clearance system. Now the hardware will be in this corridor. On each side, we have our own computer systems to support this inspection. So we will be covering our part. As for the maintenance of the hardware, so we cover our own part, and because the gate is in the middle, we will pay half the cost. So that's how it works. A follow-up question. So we are giving $70 million to Shenzhen. Will that cover the maintenance for the next few years? And if there are future maintenance costs, how many years of maintenance costs will we pay? You pay a maintenance fee for software in general. And there was a question that went unanswered. Now on the Shenzhen side, you call Futian, and it's very close to Huanggang. So what's the current level of passenger traffic over there? If you put the two BCPs together and they're below 100,000 passenger trips per day, wouldn't 200,000 passenger trips per day excessive? Chairman, sorry, I got the question wrong, so I will take the question about Futian and Lok Ma Chau. Now, the design capacity, 280,000 passenger trips. At peak level, there were 250,000 passenger trips. That's the post-COVID peak. Every week, those boundary control points are under huge strain. In the final week of the summer holidays, the daily volume was 600,000 passenger trips. So you can see huge two-way movement between Hong Kong and the mainland. And then because you think of the Greater Bay Area, you have goods, people flowing in both ways. We have to cope with that. Now on the recurrent expenditure. So that's $750 million. Wages 26%, maintenance 60% of the total fee or expenditure. $97 million will go into the operation, so cleaning staff, security staff, etc. Thank you. Can I clarify a figure? So you will have a new system, and that will mean shorter clearance time. Have you taken that into account? Now for clearance time. In Shenzhen Bay, you arrive there, you queue up, you walk to the Shenzhen side, you have to queue up again before you can leave the building. Our assessment is that with this new arrangement, it can take up to 30 minutes. But if you adopt joint clearance, 5 minutes will do. With the gate, it will take even less time. So you have already taken into account the passenger volume. So the clearance time will go down from 30 minutes to 5. We have taken into account the new clearance system. Mr. Chen Xiuhong. Thank you, Chairman. So this covers the works. And we're talking about the redevelopment of the Huanggang port. Altogether, you have $1.6 billion. The lion's share is furniture and equipment because F&E takes up more than 90%. So close to my heart are furniture and equipment as well as building services. And then annual recurrent expenditure, $750 million. In July this year, this panel on security was consulted. The price we got was higher than what we have now. We're saving more than $90 million based on the returned tender price. So this is in money of the day prices. There's a table setting out the costs for furniture and equipment. I find that table helpful. But that table is based on the prices from July. So can we make an apple-to-apple comparison? I wonder if we have a table based on the latest prices. So can we see the comparison before and after? I check the information in the enclosures. Now, based on the prices in September 2024, I see a difference. Now, some items each costing below $1 million are left out. So can we have the breakdown? And on the procurement of F&E and as well as installation, the experience from the engineering sector is that you may not need 10% in contingency fees. Those fees are for uncertainty, but now we have the returned tender price. We'll simply wait for the structure to be built, and then we will install the electrical and mechanical services. So aren't we allowing too much in terms of contingency fees? Now, the annual recurrent expenditure will be $750 million, and that will cover maintenance and wages, 60% maintenance, 26% wages. So for maintenance, which makes up or takes up 60%, are there items where we will be apportioning the expenses with Shenzhen? And what items are we doing the maintenance entirely on our own, Under Secretary? Now, on the detailed figures, I will provide them after the meeting. On the contingency fees, Mr. Chen has a point. The construction will be done by Shenzhen, and that means fewer unforeseeable factors for us. Since this boundary control point will be a very important structure and we're talking about collaborative inspection and joint clearance, we want to keep a 10% contingency fees just to play safe. Otherwise, the expenses go up by a bit and we will be left struggling. When the money is unused, that amount goes back to the government. Now, on the 60% of the annual recurrent expenditure going into maintenance, we will be using that money on the upkeep of our own systems. There will be a building. Inside the building, there will be a clear boundary line delineating which part we cover. A follow-up question. We will be paying a nominal rent to Shenzhen. It's $1,000 a year. So much of the future expenses will be on maintaining the facilities inside the building. So the agreement is that we simply pay $1,000 and we don't pay for the maintenance of the buildings in the future. Is that the point?
Undersecretary, the $1,000 is just rent for the premises. Say, you can think of it this way. There is partition in the middle, and one part of it is under the jurisdiction of the Shenzhen side, and this side is under our jurisdiction, and we have put our stuff here, and we'll be responsible for maintenance of such equipment and facilities. $1,000 is just the rent. Alright, so if we need to maintain the facilities on the Hong Kong side, there will be some discussions on the maintenance for the both sides, because sometimes you can't really delineate so clearly in terms of building structure. So there will be further negotiations on such costs, right? I believe if they really can't split it up that neatly, they will discuss such. Or if you can split it up quite nicely, of course this cost should be borne by the Hong Kong side. The principle is quite clear, but for implementation, I guess you have to flesh out the arrangements. The chairman's understanding is correct. The general principle is we will split the maintenance costs by the partition, but for some cables, it may go through both sides. So it's not that we'll only fix things on our side in such case, and then we will discuss with the Shenzhen side on the maintenance of such facilities. Thank you. Mr. Lee Chen-kang. I very much support the proposal, but I also want to ask for the arrangement relating to the $1,000 nominal rent. Is that forever? Will that be increased at some point? Have you talked about what kind of an increase it would be and when it would be? I also want to ask, it's good that the Shenzhen side is bearing the cost of design and construction. They can do the works at a lower cost. That is very much appreciated. But we also understand that the standards will comply with those on the Hong Kong side. I want to ask, when you talk about the construction standards and costs, what kind of differences are there, and how much does the cost vary if the construction is based on mainland standards rather than Hong Kong standards? Do you have such comparisons? If you have such figures for our reference in future, we can apply that to other projects, say in the Hotel Corporation zone or the Northern Metropolis, so as for us to save cost. I also want to ask, the location of the Huanggang port is very accessible. It is very popular for locals and visitors. So I want to ask if there are going to be more vehicles and more people going through the port. Is it possible to expand the new Huanggang port, and how much of an expansion can there be? Thank you, Chair. Undersecretary. For the financial arrangement, if this port is to continue operating, this arrangement will continue to be valid. It's kind of like what we have for Shenzhen Bay Port and the express rail link station in West Kowloon. As for the cost comparisons, I am not a professional in this regard. I will ask Mr. Wang Edward Wong from the Architectural Services Department to answer this question. Thank you, Mr. Lee. We do not have a very scientific cost comparison, if I have to be honest. But the Shenzhen side is constructing the building with national standards, and we have reviewed the standards, comply with Hong Kong standards in terms of safety. So there is some consensus here in terms of the standards. As for construction cost comparison, you can see that the major construction works are done by the Shenzhen side. But for, say, the CIQ facilities or the facilities on the Hong Kong side specifically, we have a rough figure here. The Shenzhen side's cost is half of the Hong Kong side's cost, but this is not a scientific comparison. Of course, we also see the figures compared with the Huanggang control point is also half the cost, but there are some differences between the two projects. So this is a reference for members' reference. Which side's cost is lower? Oh, the Shenzhen side is lower. For members' reference, the projects are also done at different times. We also have the Shenzhen side's works in this project being undertaken earlier than those of the Hong Kong side. I don't think we can exactly draw an accurate comparison. This is just a comparison in concept, but I think we all agree that the construction costs on the mainland will be lower. It is also completed a bit more quickly. We will not go into the detailed discussion here. Undersecretary, going back to you. Thank you. The Shenzhen side is very proactive in coordination. They need to maintain their operations and they're constructing a new port, and indeed they're going at quite a quick pace here. As for whether we can further expand the Huanggang port, we have already expanded the capacity right now under our plan. As for in future whether we can have more clearance kiosks and channels, we'll see in future. In general, most ports have some space for further expansion reserved. Thank you. Mr. Chan Pui Leung. Well, Mr. Lee Chen already asked some of the questions that I wanted to ask. I will not repeat them. I want to ask about tendering. The facilities I can see in the list, the items are not exactly complex facilities or equipment. So in tendering, have you invited bids to be submitted by some mainland companies? If we can acquire some equipment and facilities on the mainland, and since the location of construction is on the mainland, it may be more cost effective for the equipment and facilities to be acquired on the mainland, so that the costs for logistics and installation will be lower. Have you drawn a comparison between the costs of acquisition on the mainland and in Hong Kong? Undersecretary, thank you. Well, we have been tendering for building works and F&E, and we have only invited Hong Kong companies to submit bids. Well, some of the items actually involve systems, and for inspection systems, we need to make sure the security meets standards, especially in terms of national security. Thank you. Mr. Lau Kwok Fan. Thank you, Chair. We have many members ask questions about works. I will not repeat them. I want to ask if this project is approved today and it is expected to be completed within a year. Is it the case that in 2026 next year, or at least at the end of next year, this new Huanggang port will be commissioned? That's my first question. As for the second question, this new Huanggang port will be passenger clearance only. We do have more clearance kiosks for private cars. Can we have a single vehicle going past the two sides so as to alleviate traffic? We can see in Liantang and Huanggang they will close at different hours. Is it possible that we can allow for a vehicle to go past multiple boundary control points without further checking? I also want to ask for vehicle clearance. Do you require people to get off their vehicles for clearance? Thank you. Under Secretary, we are striving for the Hong Kong side to start their works on installation, and I believe the Shenzhen side is striving for completion of the main structure within Q4 of this year. And once the systems and equipment have been installed, next year we'll conduct tests. We do want to commission the new Huanggang port next year, but there are some issues to iron out because the collaborative inspection and joint clearance mode is the first time arrangement here. And for how we have different quotas in different boundary control points for vehicles, it is because there are different capacities with each boundary control point. We can make adjustments with reference to circumstances in future, but we have to coordinate with the Shenzhen side on this. As for the clearance mode, the collaborative inspection and joint clearance mode applies not only to passengers, but individuals, but also vehicles. And if one does not get out of their vehicles, it is very hard to implement this arrangement. So for vehicles, we have a vehicle plaza in particular, and the driver would ask all passengers to get out of the vehicle, and then the vehicle will be driven into a 5-in-1 channel. We will have immigration, customs, and quarantine officers from both sides in the vehicle plaza, and essentially it would still be a joint inspection. This is a new arrangement that we're adopting. For those who need special assistance, elderly persons, or there are children involved, or if they have specific needs, we have some courtesy channels or special channels available for these groups. One does not have to get out of vehicle, but the mode of inspection will not be collaborative inspection and joint clearance, and the services will not be electronic. Thank you. I have a follow-up question. Is it the case that, like in Shenzhen Bayport, they have a vehicle plaza? And one does not have to come back to a specific area. Is it the case that they can just get back on at a different point? it will be different from what is in Shenzhen Bayport. For northbound traffic in Shenzhen Bayport, one will not be required to go past a vehicle plaza, but only southbound traffic. Well, have you assessed what the clearance time will be? It will definitely be faster than what it is right now. Even though people are not required to get out on the Hong Kong side, one is still required to get out of vehicle on the Shenzhen side at the moment. We expect the waiting time can be shortened by 80% because the driver only has to go through the point once, as well as the passengers. Thank you.
Mr. Kwai. The Huanggang port has been a major BCP. Once you have the redeveloped Huanggang port, and you will also have co-location, so people don't have to get out and then get in their car again. We all like to see the completion of the redevelopment project. Now, my questions. We have to talk to Shenzhen about the reopening date. My question is, how long will our E&M works take? We will start building starting from the end of this year, so I wonder how long our work will take in terms of installation. Shenzhen will be building the structure and they are speeding up the work. And we're entrusting some of the construction to Shenzhen. My question is that construction still ongoing, or is that construction already done? Meaning some works remain to be done. Under Secretary. In terms of the works we entrust to Shenzhen, Shenzhen will pay for the works. What we will pay for covers the parts for collaborative inspection. We also pay for the facilities specifically installed for our use. Now, my concern has to do with jobs for our local workers. Now, 50 people will be there to supervise the work. How many local workers will be employed for the installation of the electrical and mechanical services? Will there be express rules banning the use of imported workers? As we all know, the unemployment rate is rising in the construction sector. The jobs in this sector should go to local workers first. Do we have such arrangements? Can we do that? I believe we will follow the existing regulatory regime. Under Secretary. One question wasn't answered, and that was how long the work will take. We will start working in the fourth quarter this year. Our installation will take a year. We will follow Hong Kong's mechanism in tendering. So whoever gets our contract will have to follow our requirements. What about the workers? How would that work? Labor is not my portfolio, but generally speaking, if we cannot hire a kind of worker in Hong Kong, we bring in outside workers. We now have supplementary labor schemes. We have to meet certain requirements before we can import the workers. So the project here follows the same rules that apply to any other project. I have one more question. The old port was used for 40 years from 1980 to 2018, roughly 40 years. So for the redeveloped Huanggang port, how long will the new port be good for? Have we looked at that? Now for the The life cycle of the new structure, we have not made any estimate. There will be maintenance and repairs. In Hong Kong, you can easily find 60-year-old buildings. Look at the Hong Kong Police Force, the Fire Services Department, and the Correctional Services Department. We all have buildings over 100 years old. With proper maintenance and repair, you can keep using the same building. You can have buildings of different ages. My concern is not about the age. My concern is about the capacity of the building. Because there will be growing demand for the services. So do we have an estimate? The current design capacity is 38,000 passenger trips per day. It will go up to 200,000 passenger trips, so almost a five-fold increase. So that will be able to cover the growing demand for a long time to come. And also, please start the work, meaning the installation, as soon as we can. Assuming the new facilities reopen in the end of next year. So let's get that work done and let's start planning early about how we use the new site. Next, Mr. Chu Kwai. Thank you, Chairman. I support the proposal. Co-location has already worked in Shenzhen Bay. I believe that will also work in the new Huanggang port. Now let's look at Hengqin Port in Macau. They're looking to upgrade their automated channels into channels where you don't even have to show your documents. Do we have such plans for the new Huanggang port? Now, in the basement, there's space reserved for entrance for passengers from the spur line of the Northern Link. So does that mean in the future passengers from the Northern Link spur line will not have to go to the 4th and 5th floors? And for the funding here, does the funding cover the facilities for those covering the Northern Link spur line? We're leaving out that, is that correct? And is there a cap on the closed area permit for cross-boundary students? Do we have details on parking spaces for school buses carrying cross-boundary students? I think we have covered the point about documents, so a brief reply would do. For this new port, we will do collaborative inspection and joint clearance, and we agreed with Shenzhen that we need people to show their document. We will scan the document. Each side will cross-check the scanned image against their own databases, so the information will not go from Hong Kong to Shenzhen. And that also means people will have to show their documents for the scanning. Now, on the linkage with the Northern Link spur line, we have set aside space, roughly 15,000 square meters, to link up with the future Northern Link. The funding before us does not cover the linkage with the future Northern Link. We wait till the main works are done. We wait till the facilities open. The space will still be reserved for the future Northern Link. Now, on the school buses, we do not have any detailed plans for that yet. The Transport and Logistics Bureau will remain in touch with Shenzhen about the cross-boundary vehicles and support for them. Macau is also a special administrative region, so why can Macau enable document-free clearance? Why can we not learn from Macau? Undersecretary, you have covered the point about document-free clearance. I think the Undersecretary said they would look into this and seek enhancement in the future. We have talked to Shenzhen. The technology we have right now requires passengers to show a document. Our preliminary plan is to get people to scan their home return card. On that card, there's a number, and that number will enable customs clearance. That's what the technology allows us to do. Now, as for the future, maybe there can be facial recognition, we can use biometrics, but that's something that we will keep exploring. Mr. Holden Chow. The current Huanggang port was built in the 1980s. It is indeed time for an upgrading exercise to meet the current needs, so I support the works. Our country has granted visa-free access to many foreign nationals. Now, for these foreign visitors, when they go to the West Kowloon terminal, they go to the counters, and they have to spend a long time there when the station is crowded. I'm talking about more time has to be spent when these visitors go to the mainland counters. For the new Huanggang BCP, there will be more manual counters. Can we also do something about the manual counters for foreign visitors? It's fine when there are few passengers around, but when you have crowded stations, people have to wait for a long time. So have we talked to Shenzhen about the manual counters? Foreign visitors, even expats in Hong Kong, want to visit the mainland. There is keen demand for such customs clearance services, so can we talk to Shenzhen about such demand? I went on a visit to Macau's port. They have special counters. Those counters serve foreign visitors when those visitors run into problems. So that's Macau. For the future Huanggang port, do we have similar arrangements? Those are my questions. Efficiency matters in customs clearance. Most people, over 99.9%, are Hong Kong and Macau visitors. Those are most of the people going to the mainland, and they use the automated channels. As for foreign visitors, there are two categories. First, you have expats from Hong Kong. If they are permanent residents of Hong Kong, they also have their own home return cards specifically for non-Chinese visitors. And then you also have the foreign visitors. They can use their passports. And this is a global practice. A foreign visitor comes here, they go through the checks. In the future, Huanggang port, the number of counters will go up from 45 to 68. And when a passport holder goes to one of those counters, they go through collaborative inspection, all the same. So those foreign visitors don't have to queue up twice, they queue up once, so that won't take too long. As for special counters, we have different kinds of counters, some for APEC visitors, for example, and then you have counters for visitors specifically. The mainland also have different counters, some specifically for Hong Kong and Macau visitors. So it's hard to generalize what kind of visitors will expect a particularly long wait, but we will cater to different needs at the counters.
Next, Mr. Yang Wing-kit. I very much welcome this proposal. The artist's impression actually looks very nice. The new Huanggang port is an important port that provides round-the-clock services. It is also a port that connects to Central and Eastern Guangdong. Mainly people going to eastern Guangdong make use of Huanggang boundary control point to get to Chaozhou. But it is quite inconvenient because it would take several changes to be made. I believe with the new Huanggang port commissioned, some of those heading to eastern Guangdong will make use of the new Huanggang port. And I note that the clearance kiosks for private cars and cross-boundary coaches will increase to 26 from the current 20, and there is room for further expansion. I urge the administration to plan in advance. Next, we often talk about boosting the economy, and if we have more events in the evening, we will have more people making use of the new Huanggang port. If there's going to be a large number of private cars, and if you expect such, you need to think about increasing the number of clearance kiosks so as to increase the speed of processing passengers. Next, we have most of the works done by the Shenzhen side. For furniture and equipment, it costs over $1 billion. Can we have the Shenzhen side deal with such as well? The systems are not exactly complicated. We have, say, X-ray equipment, access control systems. And as the administration said earlier, if the cost is borne by the Shenzhen side, it is half the cost we have on the Hong Kong side, and it would mean we can save approximately $700 million. Why not think about this? Lastly, the redeveloped port. For its operations, it's not just on the Security Bureau. We need to think about how we can make use of the new Huanggang port to boost boundary economy. This is not under the portfolio of the Security Bureau, but this is what I expect. And the new Huanggang port, as I said earlier, looks very nice. We, in future, have an INT zone nearby. How can we make sure there is synergy so that we can boost economic activities in the area? Thank you. Well, the first two questions have already been asked by other members. I guess the Undersecretary can focus on the third question and only provide supplementary information for the first two questions. Thank you, Chair. Under special, because there are special circumstances, we have set a design capacity for boundary control points, but on special occasions we have some special arrangements. For example, we will have more officers work overtime. We also have special counters available, temporary counters, to meet needs during the peak periods. And that would also cover occasions when there are mega events held, concerts, for example. As for having the mainland side construct the relevant facilities, we actually have some costs borne by the mainland side to construct CIQ facilities and some fixtures. Right now, we are only asking for funding for our operations, and I think this cost should be borne by us because this is our responsibility. We also note the third question or suggestion in relation to boosting the economy. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Falk, we have on the 26th of March this year, I asked the Department of Health about their deployment of officers to different boundary control points. And for the Lok Ma Chau control point, 124 officers are engaged for the measuring of temperature at boundary control points. We have this new Huanggang port, we do understand there is a need for temperature checking, but then for frontline officers, it is actually quite harsh for them, especially during the summer. We can perhaps have remote measurement of temperatures. It is not very nice working environment for workers in general, as they have to smell vehicle exhaust. And I would like to therefore ask if we should reduce manpower for health screening to better deploy the officers. And on the Shenzhen side, you only have machines where you would have people putting their foreheads closer to the equipment to measure their temperatures. So can we make use of some of such technologies to reduce the manpower needed so that we don't need 124 people measuring people's temperatures, because the annual cost would be over $10 million already. So if we can save on such costs, that would be ideal. Undersecretary, thank you, Chair. We have Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau Bridge where there will be officers measuring temperatures of people, but in the new Huanggang port, we will have drivers driving their vehicles into a 5-in-1 channel, and there is already an inspection facilities there, so we do not need as many officers. I will make sure to convey your views to the Department of Health in particular. Well, I would say this, for the 5-in-1 channel, I think we can definitely try to reduce manpower as much as possible. We have 100 odd officers that are outsourced contractors measuring temperatures. I really hope you can explore this option. Chair, I want to supplement some information. We have separation of drivers and passengers, and the 5-in-1 channel is actually machine inspection, not human inspection. Alright, noted. Thank you. Dr. Simon Lee. Thank you, Chair. I very much support this project. I definitely think we need a round-the-clock port. So I hope that the new Huanggang port can be commissioned as soon as possible. I want to ask about ancillary works of the project. We would need some connections such as bridges. And right now for the existing Huanggang port, the fruit bridge connection is quite old, and we have had before the bridge being used by vehicles. Now we have this bridge being used by passengers. There is definitely need for maintenance works to be done. There also has to be some other ancillary works I expect to be done, such as for roads. What is the plan of the administration on this? Under Secretary, we do have maintenance and expansion works planned for ancillary connections, and we will be responsible for our own connection works on the Hong Kong side. Any follow-up questions? Basically, you can rest assured, Dr. Simon Lee. Mr. Gary Zhang. Thank you, Chair. I want to ask more about the arrangements for collaborative inspection and joint clearance. So between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, generally people would have to first go through immigration and then customs. And if one is getting from the mainland side, it would be the other way round. So for joint clearance, basically we would put immigration and mainland customs in the same place. Is there a change in the order of inspections to be done by different departments and authorities? I also want to ask about, for private cars, we would have passengers having checks done in their vehicles on the Hong Kong side, and on the mainland side, like in Shenzhen Bay, people would get out of vehicles, go into the structure, and then they will get back into the vehicles. I'm not sure what the arrangements in the new Huanggang port will be. If you have to have people get out of vehicles, it will be inconvenient. It is just like in Shenzhen Bay port, but Shenzhen Bay port has the advantage of the terrain being flat. In Huanggang port, you will have different levels. It can be quite complex. Well, your question has already been answered. Perhaps you did not know that. But I guess the Undersecretary can explain in a brief manner, because we have already discussed this item for over 17 minutes. If I would also urge members to press the request to speak button if they wish to speak as soon as possible. Undersecretary, thank you for the collaborative inspection joint clearance approach. Basically, we will have first people going through customs, and then they would go through a channel, scan their IDs, and then they would go through the mainland customs. So this is somewhat different from what we have right now, but this is a process that we believe is streamlined. As for the channels where people will scan their IDs, there are basically 3 parts to it. You will scan your ID, the information will be sent to both sides, and then you can get past the first gate, and then in the second part you will be scanning your fingers to get your biometric information, essentially to verify your identities, and then there can be confirmation as to whether you can depart. If you can depart, you can get through to the third part, and then if you have the approval of the police to depart, the third part, the gate will automatically open. That is the preliminary idea of how things are going to work. As for vehicle clearance, driver will drop off passengers. At one point, the passengers will go into the building, and then the driver will drive the vehicle into a 5-in-1 channel. It's just like what we have in Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau Bridge. The driver will be going through the process on their own. Any follow-up questions? None? Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chair. When I went past the Huanggang port recently, I could see the new Huanggang port being quite a majestic structure. I have great expectations. I hope that the new Huanggang port can be commissioned as soon as possible to provide convenience to passengers. So the administration is asking for funding to provide for the government facilities at the Hong Kong port area. There are several works to be done: passenger clearance hall facilities and associated inspection facilities, vehicle clearance plaza facilities, and furniture and equipment for government departments, including radio communication systems, CCTV systems. I note in the paper we will have works done by the Shenzhen side because we are adopting the mode of collaborative inspection and joint clearance. Essentially, we will be sharing some facilities, and I think it's great that we are achieving synergy in this way. I want to ask for the funding sought. Has the estimated cost covered the works where some of them will be undertaken by the Shenzhen side, essentially saving costs. I also want to ask, does the costs reflect tendered prices so that it is a more accurate figure that will not deviate much from the actual figure in the end? I have another question. Many members have already asked that about the construction of the building, and the construction will mainly be done by the Shenzhen side, and apparently the cost of construction is half that of the Hong Kong side. I think this is a very good reference for members. I'm sure, Chair, you would understand and agree. I'm not sure if other members asked for a supplementary information paper on this. I don't need the paper's content to be complex or 100% accurate. I just want to say, if we have a reference from a project of such complexity, if we can find out more about the differences in standards. I understand that the national standards, even if there are some differences to Hong Kong standards, I would say in the end, in terms of safety, the standards are comparable because we all prioritize safety and quality. I also want to ask about where the cost differences stem from specifically. Is it because of wages? Is it because of materials? I would say for materials, it is mainly market-led, but there may be differences. Can the administration provide supplementary information paper on the content so that we can find out more about the differences in construction costs and construction times for our comparison?
Dr. Low raised a question about the construction cost. We have dealt with this. Dr. Low is looking for a rough comparison. So can we have some sort of comparison? Whether this can apply to other projects is up for debate, but I think the concern is on building standards and how we can drive down the construction costs. This is a broader question. And I think that has little to do with the proposal before us here. I believe the government will look into this so that we can reduce construction costs. So now for the Undersecretary. Do we have further details that maybe you can submit to members for the reference on the cost comparisons? Roughly $117 million of the funding will go to Shenzhen to build the structure, and that will cover the vehicle clearance plaza, quarantine facilities with negative pressure systems, ICQ systems, meaning immigration, customs, and quarantine, and also the furniture and equipment. So we paid Shenzhen and they will build the structure. And for our part, we have done parallel tendering, so we now have a reliable price. So the funding should cover everything. There are minor differences between the building standards of Hong Kong and those in the mainland, but safety is not an issue. The differences have to do with maybe the socket for your plugs, and also the differences about the design of buttons in a lift. On the point raised by Dr. Low, I will work with my colleagues and the Secretariat on how we can provide the information. The details can get complicated because the construction will happen on the Shenzhen side, and we will still have to work on the bill about the boundary, and we have to specify a part of the building as Hong Kong port area, and there are also differences between Hong Kong and the mainland of construction costs. So we will work with the Secretariat on how we can prepare this paper for members. So please work on that after the meeting. Next, Mr. Lok Chung Hong. Chairman, most of the expenses will go into furniture and equipment, so that's roughly $1.3 billion. We will be paying Shenzhen $73 million to do the work for us. So how do we decide what we entrust Shenzhen to do and what we will do on our own? Do we pay Shenzhen a lump sum of $73 million, or will there be detailed requirements, and what would be the criteria for our tendering? I'm looking at enclosure 5. Now, I can see the government gives us more detailed information. I can see the breakdown for items when each costs $1 million or more. Now, I know very little about these items. So my question is, for this smart imaging system, do we have to develop the system? Do we have to set up the cameras and the hardware? A single system costs $28.4 million. That's the video analytics system. Shenzhen is popular for their INT systems. Wouldn't we achieve greater cost effectiveness if we get Shenzhen to do that for us, meaning covering the video analytics system? Car owners also look forward to the arrangement where cars can go through any BCP, especially for the dual plate cars. So any chance that can be done as well, given we will have collaborative inspection and joint clearance under Secretary. The funding we seek will cover not just $73 million. Altogether, we will be reimbursing $117 million. That's how much we will pay Shenzhen. So we will pay $25.8 million to Shenzhen to build the passenger clearance hall facilities, health inspection stations, fixed furniture for government departments, etc. $18.9 million will go to Shenzhen for the building services, and that covers vehicle clearance plaza as well as the negative pressure systems for isolation facilities. The $73 million will go to Shenzhen for half of the collaborative inspection and joint clearance system. Now, as for the video analytics system, that's for our Customs and Excise Department. This is for the CNED to do risk-based spot checking. Now, on allowing vehicles to go through multiple BCPs, we have a quota system in place to make sure each BCP can cope with the vehicle volume. On allowing cars to go through any BCP, this is a matter we can explore in the future. Now, on allowing Hong Kong vehicles to go north, they can only go via the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. I know we're in talks with Shenzhen about opening up other BCPs to cars, but our focus now is allowing Guangdong cars to come to Hong Kong. Hong Kong vehicles going north has been around for 2 years. The time has come to deal with Guangdong cars coming here. Now, I do have some questions about the video analytics system. So is that about the X-ray machines? Is that for the luggage inspections? Is it just software or is it also about hardware? And is that the reason it costs $28.4 million? This is something for the customs, so the Assistant Commissioner for Customs and Excise can tell us more about that. Thank you. The Customs and Excise Department makes use of technology. We bear in mind the growth in the passenger volume at different BCPs. We want efficiency. We want to be an effective gatekeeper while also making life easier for passengers. So we use technology, and that means using the video analytics system. We're looking for big data analytics to help us spot the high-risk travelers. Those travelers will be identified for further inspections. We believe most of them are law-abiding travelers. As for the rest, we're trying to use the systems to make it easier for travelers. So are you saying this system will work like an experienced customs officer? So when the system spots a suspicious figure, that system will flag the traveler? Indeed. Now we're coming to the second round. Mr. Andrew Lam and Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Mr. Andrew Lam, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Coming back to the annual recurrent expenditure, the Undersecretary has commented on this. It's $750 million. This is a sizable chunk of the total funding. The construction will be built by Shenzhen. So we have to make things clear. How much are we actually spending on the facilities? Say we look at a 4-year horizon. If we're spending this amount for just 4 years of building services, that's a large sum. Do we have any references from the past suggesting whether we're spending a lot more or a lot less on the maintenance for this figure, $750 million? Now, on contract administration, it's a small sum. It's just $2.5 million. The note says this covers quantity surveying. Do our own government departments do the acceptance and inspection for the materials? Undersecretary. Now, the annual recurrent expenditure of $750 million. This sum covers the wages for a range of departments. That's $190 million for the police, the Department of Health, Customs, Fire Services Department, and then you also have the maintenance. That's roughly $460 million, and then you also have the operating costs covering the utilities, cleaning, security staff, altogether $90+ million, and then the AFCD also incurs an expenditure of roughly $100,000 per year, so altogether $750 million. The maintenance is the member saying depreciation? If that's the point, Mr. Wong can tell us more about that, because I'm not familiar with the concept of depreciation as a part of the cost. Mr. Edward Wong from the ASD. So the sum covers maintenance and repairs. That involves the AST and the EMST, which provide the maintenance. And then we also have the Government Property Agency. So part of that sum of $400+ million will cover the maintenance provided by the GPA. Of course, you can have a further breakdown. The operation also involves hiring cleaning staff and other workers. So we can provide a supplementary paper for further breakdown of the recurrent expenditure. Can also take this opportunity to address another question, and that is the $2.5 million for the contract administration. That money will cover the hiring of quantity surveyors. So at the end of this year, there will be a one-year project. For quantity surveying, we will hire a consultant. For our side, we hire local workers. The consultant will also bring to the table experience with mainland projects. So that consultant will look at the list of the bill of quantities from the mainland. As for the supervision, the AST will do the work. And what about acceptance and inspection? Therefore, the Hong Kong Port area, we will do the inspection.
All right. Please provide the supplementary information because I am sure that members are concerned the relatively significant sum of over $750 million per year in annual recurrent expenditure. So I urge the administration to provide supplementary information after the meeting. Next, Mr. Chen Su-hong. Like Chair and other members, I also want to ask about the recurrent expenditure. Indeed, $750 million is not a small number. And as the Undersecretary said, 60% of it would be used for maintenance. I am not sure why depreciation is included in the recurrent expenditure because it is not the usual practice. I think you should confirm, the administration should confirm whether there is indeed a depreciation component in the recurrent expenditure in the maintenance part. So 60% of the $750 million will be used for maintenance. And if we have regard to also the cost of furniture and equipment, the ratio is not exactly normal. You are basically spending 30% of the initial cost on maintenance. I hope that the administration would have justifications for that. I will not ask the administration to provide specific figures, but say for those costing over $100 million, say the CCTV system or the baggage check system or the passenger analytics system, they would cost approximately $160 million or above. So there are quite a number of them. As the chair suggested, can the administration provide us with some rough figures and draw comparisons between those and existing systems in boundary control points? It may not be an apple-to-apple comparison because I'm sure the systems at the new Huanggang port will be more advanced, but if you can at least draw a rough comparison so as for members to determine whether the systems are justified. Under Secretary, well, I think in general depreciation is not included in the recurrent expenditure. I may have misunderstood what Mr. Lam said, so I apologize. Well, can you provide supplementary information after the meeting for members' reference? Of course we can. We will work with the Secretariat later to see what kind of information we should provide specifically. Thank you. If members have no other questions, I now put the item to vote. Members in favor of the proposal in PWSC 2025-26-15, please raise your hands. Members against, please raise your hands. None. I believe all of the members who voted on the item were in favor of the proposal. The proposal is endorsed. As for whether the Finance Committee should further discuss the item, I now go in accordance with paragraph 41A of the Public Works Subcommittee procedure. Put the following question to vote. The subcommittee recommends further discussion by the Finance Committee of the proposal in PWSC 2025-26-15 that was endorsed by the subcommittee. I remind members that if this question is agreed to, it means that the subcommittee recommends that the Finance Committee further discuss this item. If the question is negative, it means that the subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of the item by the Finance Committee. Members in favor, please raise your hands. Members against, please raise your hands. I believe most of the members who voted on the question were against the question. The question is negative. The subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of item PWSC 2025-26-15 by the Finance Committee. This is the end of the discussion of this item. Thank you, public officers, for attending the discussion of this item. We'll now move on to the next agenda item. We'll now invite officers for the discussion of the next item to enter the conference room. The second agenda item is 25 EM development of the lift and escalator technology center at the Annex building of Hong Kong Institute of Vocational Education, Kwai. Chung. Paper is PWSC 2025-26-16. The item proposes to upgrade 25 EM to Category A at an estimated cost of $249.7 million in money of the day prices. The item was discussed by the panel on education on 6th of June 2025. The members of the panel supported the administration to submit the funding proposal to the subcommittee for consideration. The report on the deliberations of the panel was sent to members via email on 9th of September. Public officers in attendance for the discussion of this item. There are many of them. Again, we have those from the Education Bureau, Electrical and Mechanical Services Department, Architectural Services Department, Vocational Training Council, and surveyor or architect from the AD plus RG Architecture Design and Research Group Limited. I will not spell out the names of all of the officers in attendance. I will read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Tang Fei, Mr. Lam Chin Sing, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Chen Siu Hong, Dr. An Men Yun, Ms. Lilian Kwok. I'll assign a 4-minute time limit. Questions and answers included. Mr. Tang Fei. I speak in support of the proposal, but I would like to seek clarification on certain information by the administration. It is said that we have 86,000 lifts and escalators in Hong Kong as at end June 2025, we have 9,100 workers in the lift and escalator industry. I understand there is definitely demand for relevant personnel. Great demand, really. But while there is great demand for maintenance of lifts and escalators, it does not mean for a great demand for such education. The work is, of course, quite harsh. And I have to be honest, some youngsters are probably not willing to join the industry. They may prefer to join industries where the working environment is more comfortable and there is more of a career ladder. So we are to convert an existing structure into this lift and escalator technology center. What are the estimates of the administration on the demand for such education and the courses? If we do not have enough students locally for student intake for such courses, will you open such courses for mainland and overseas students to apply to? Thank you. Undersecretary. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Tang, for your support. We are trying to attract more local youth to apply to the courses. We have been enhancing publicity. We have also been trying to create a better image of the profession. The enhancement works would involve introducing advanced technologies in the new facilities. There will also be new innovative course modules. We do pay close attention and attach great importance to introducing sensors, IoT networks, as well as cloud data analytics systems. We are trying to make good use of augmented reality systems in training. We also have, as I said earlier, some AI, IoT sensors and networks to be used in training and the actual maintenance work. I believe with the use of such technologies, it will really change people's impression of the profession. And the Education Bureau specifically set up a committee to promote vocational and professional education and training. We have adopted a publicity approach of advertising these professionals as superheroes to change the people's impression of the professions. And one of the superheroes was a lift maintenance professional. So we are trying to tie in with our strategy to promote vocational and professional education and training when we step up publicity to attract more new blood to join the relevant professions. Have you estimated the demand for such education? This was the specific question of the member. Thank you, Chair. We do have a pretty good admission rate of VTC courses, and we will have an increase in the number of places in future. To tie in with that, we will enhance publicity. We will also try to tie in with the diploma of vocational education on secondary school level to enhance publicity on a secondary school level for the specific subjects. If you have more places available than what you have in student intake, would you consider allowing overseas and mainland students to apply to the courses? We will keep in view of the situation. The works will only be completed a few years later. We will pay close attention to the demand and supply in the profession. converting the existing structure into this technology center is a long-term solution to meet the manpower needs in the profession. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lam Chen-Sing.
項目嘅，因為
Thank you, Chairman. I support this proposal. Now, for lift and escalator maintenance, the training facilities are costly. The private sector cannot provide them. This is where the Vocational Training Council comes in. Now, we're trying to train more repair workers. We also have a scheme for bringing in technical professionals. One such kind of professional is lift and electricians, and for each such category we can bring in up to 3,000 technicians. So if you do bring in 3,000 lift and escalator repair workers in one go, what would that mean for the graduates of your training college? Those people won't find a job. We need people to take up the technical jobs. So can we coordinate the number of trainees for technical professionals and also the number of outside technical professionals we bring in? So we can train a few hundred local technical professionals and only bring in a moderate number of outside professionals. That's how we can strike a balance. Last year, there was a fatal industrial accident. An apprentice repairing an escalator fell into a shaft and lost his life. So as we invest in vocational training, how can we step up vocational safety training for apprentices? A few months ago, we discussed this item at the Education Bureau. The estimated cost we had back then was higher. Now we're saving $50 million on the return tender price. So where are we saving that $50 million? Why is it cheaper now? Dr. Jeff C., Undersecretary. I thank Mr. Lam for his support for the proposal. Priority goes to training local talent. The EMSD has been working with the VTC on local training and recruitment. We have also launched a professional diploma pitched at level 5 of the qualifications framework, and that's for escalator and lift repair workers. At the same time, we're also trying to bring in younger lift and escalator repair workers on the technical professional list. This is to meet the ongoing talent demand, labor demand. This is to address the aging workforce in this sector. More and more lift and escalator workers will retire. The member brought up 3,000 workers. That's the cap. There's keen demand for manpower in some sectors, but the actual number we bring in depends on the actual number of workers we need. This project here is a long-term measure. The government has launched the lift modernization subsidy scheme and also the guidelines for modernizing existing escalators. And then we also have a number of mega infrastructure projects. Given that, we expect increasing demand for lift and escalator workers. That's why we hope members will support our proposal. The second point brought up by the member was an industrial accident last year. We're sad to hear what happened. The VTC took immediate measures to step up occupational safety. That work includes a full review of the courses on occupational safety so that we make sure the trainees are aware of the standard operating procedure and OSH laws. And also trainees can take steps to protect themselves. We also have virtual reality as a part of the training to ensure better learning outcomes. We're trying to enhance education on occupational safety so that such accidents do not happen again. We also want to make sure the trainees are up to scratch and everything is up to occupational safety standards. Now, on the returned tender price, the latest price we get is cheaper than the project estimate we provided a few months ago. This reflects the latest market condition. That's why we provided the latest price based on the returned tender price. We stick to principles of fiscal prudence and we make sure resources are used properly. Dr. Lo Kwok. I'm all for this project. This is for a facility in Kwai Chung under the Hong Kong Institute of Vocational Education. So we're converting a structure into the Lift and Escalator Technology Center. This is to meet a demand in the community. Across the city, there are more than 86,000 lifts and escalators. That means a lot of work in the day-to-day maintenance, and we haven't even considered the needs from newly completed residential, industrial, and commercial towers. And then you also want to think of the MTR stations. You also have lifts and escalators in those new projects, and that points to an enormous amount of work. Now for lifts in particular, there are 75,000 lifts. Many of them are old lifts, and that's why we have the lift modernization subsidy scheme and the guidelines for modernizing existing escalators. We want to upgrade the older installations too. All that points to a need for talent. We want new entrants. Existing practitioners also have to update their knowledge, and that highlights the importance of a new training center. That's why I support the project. This project is by no means costly. It's only $250 million. I believe the government has racked its brains to keep the cost down. But let us not skimp on the training facilities. We want to provide the best facilities to give the trainees the skills and knowledge they need. I don't have any particular questions other than stating my support for the project. I would simply want to see the early completion of the facility. Other members have made a good point. We need students, not just a good facility. Of course, we are always ready to train existing practitioners, but attracting new joiners will be tough. Can we look at the rest of the Greater Bay Area? Can we let those students come to Hong Kong and join the industry? Let's give some thought to that. So with that, a comment from Dr. Lo. Members. 5 members are still waiting to speak. If we all stick to the 4-minute time limit, we won't be able to cover everyone. So I will let Mr. Andrew Lam speak, and then I will adjourn the meeting. As for the other members, we will come to you at our next meeting. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairman. The sum involved is modest. We're trying to extend and repurpose a building. It's 388 square meters. How much of that will be newly built areas? How much of that is existing area? I want a breakdown, or rather the unit cost for the newly built areas and converting the existing areas. In the paper, I see 6 lifts, and you have one for the wheelchair bound. One of the notes says the costs on the training lift are included in furniture. So how many lifts are for training, and how many lifts are conversions, or how many of the lifts are new ones? Now on the construction floor area, it used to be 2,490 square meters. We're adding 1,390 square meters, or a 56% increase in the gross floor area. So altogether, 3,880 square meters. On the number of lifts for training, my colleague from the VTC can take the question. Who will take the question, please? Mr. Tang. Can we switch on the microphone for Mr. Tang? The paper mentions 5 lifts for training. Inside the building, only 1 lift is for visitors. 2 of the 5 lifts for training are for detailed training. As for the other 3, those are for annual training. So for the 5 lifts, their expenses are part of the F&E expenses. And can also get the unit cost for building the new towers, and also the unit cost for repurposing the existing annex. So this can come in the form of a supplementary paper after the meeting. And can you also tell us more about the lift for training? Can we also see the breakdown of the lift for training and the lift for visitors, Mr. Tang? We can provide the information after the meeting. So you have to provide the information on both questions after the meeting. 1, unit costs, and 2, where the costs are reflected for those lifts. So we answered Mr. Andrew Lam's question. All those 5 lifts count towards the F&E costs. I believe Mr. Tang was speaking too softly. I didn't catch him. And the unit costs for the repurposed part and the newly built part, so that will come in a supplementary paper. 4 members are still waiting to speak. We won't get to all of them even with a 15-minute extension, so we will leave it for our next meeting. We will carry on with this item. We thank everyone for joining us at today's meetings. I adjourn the meeting here. Our next meeting will be on the 16th of September. That's next Tuesday. We will start at 9 a.m. next Tuesday. Please be punctual for the next meeting. I joined the meeting today. Thank you.